Let's talk about a question. A really simple question that, believe it or not, powers the most complex technology you use every single day. To really understand how search engines work, we first have to ask,
I know, it sounds like some kind of philosophical riddle, doesn't it? But this question isn't just for philosophers anymore. It's a puzzle that search engineers have to solve, literally millions of times a second.
So to really get our heads around how a search engine can possibly understand the entire internet, we've got to go back to the very basics. We have to ask, what is a thing anyway? And how do we know what something is?
All right, so where do we even begin with this? Is something a chair just because we call it a chair? Is the word itself what gives it its identity? Or is that just a label we've all agreed to slap onto something that already exists out there in the world?
Okay then, what if it's all about what it does? Its function. If you can sit on it, does that make it a chair? I mean, that would mean a stool is a chair. A beanbag is a chair. Heck, a big rock could be a chair. See how the lines get blurry? Like, really fast?
And then, of course, you've got its physical shape, its form. We all have this mental picture, right? 4 legs, a back. But what about that office chair you're sitting on with wheels? Or some super modern designer chair that's just a swoosh of plastic? The more you poke at it, the more the definition just kind of slips through your fingers.
And this really gets to the heart of it. There's a huge difference here. On one side, you have the thing itself, the physical object out there in the real world. And on the other, you have the idea of the thing, the concept in our minds that we give a name to.
Now, this whole idea of a thing versus its name gets even trickier and way more important when you start throwing different languages into the mix. For a computer, this is where the real headache begins.
For example, in Portuguese, if you wanted to talk about that thing you sit on, you'd use this word, cadeira. Meanwhile, in English, we use a completely different jumble of letters and sounds to point to the very same idea, chair.
So you've got 2 different names, but they're pointing to the exact same idea. How do we connect them? As humans, we do this without even thinking. But how on earth do you teach a machine that cadeira and chair are really talking about the same thing? Okay, let's say we solve that. Let's say a machine can identify things. What's the next massive hurdle? Well, it's organizing them. How do you take every single object and idea in the entire world and sort it all into a system that actually makes sense?
Do we group them by the names we use? By what they look like? By what they do? And this is what's so cool. These aren't just abstract philosophical questions anymore. These are the exact problems that people in modern semantic SEO are trying to solve for search engines every single day.
I mean, it's pretty mind-blowing, right? You've got these ancient philosophical debates about logic and how to classify the world, and now, centuries later, they've become the blueprint for how modern technology builds its understanding of the entire internet.
So how does this actually work in practice? What are the tools of the trade? Let's pull back the curtain and look at how information scientists translate our messy human world into a structured language that machines can finally understand.
It all starts with something called an entity. And really, that's just a fancy word for all the things we've been talking about. A person, a place, a company, an idea, and yes, a chair. They're all entities. Okay, once you have your entities, you need to organize them. That's where a taxonomy comes in. Just think of it like the biology classification system or a family tree for ideas. A chair belongs to the seating group, which is part of the furniture group. It creates a nice, neat hierarchy. But here's where it gets really powerful. We can go a level deeper with something called ontology. And ontology doesn't just put things in boxes. It actually defines the relationships between them. A chair is a type of seating. It is used for sitting. It can be made of wood. It's these connections that create a true web of meaning, not just a list of categories.
So this is how professionals actually put it to work. It's called a semantic workflow. You identify the key things in your content. You group them with a taxonomy, you define all the relationships between them with an ontology, and then you build your entire website around that intelligent structure.
All right, we've gone from philosophy class to some pretty complex computer science. But why does any of this matter to you? Well, because all this deep organizational work has a direct impact on the search results you see every single day. You see, when a website does this work, when it clearly defines its things and their relationships, it's essentially handing Google a super detailed map of its content.
It helps the search algorithms go beyond just matching keywords and start to actually understand the meaning and the context of a page.
And that's really the whole point. All this complex stuff happening behind the scenes is what allows a search engine to figure out that when you type "best place to sit in my living room," you might be looking for a chair or a sofa or even a beanbag. It gets your intent, not just your words. It gives you more relevant, more intelligent, and just plain more helpful results.
And that kind of leaves us with one last, really interesting thought to chew on. We've put all this incredible effort into teaching machines to understand what things are. So as they get better and better at that, what's the next big question they'll be able to answer for us?